we thank you for murshid Beloved Sheikh Mubarak Jilani, and we owe a debt of gratitude to thee for the many blessings you bestow continually. So we say, Subhanahu.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to my channel. Ahlan wa sahlan, marhaban bikum min jadid. Welcome to anyone who is new, and for anyone who has been here all of this time, thank you so much for staying and just supporting and being a part of our life's journey here on YouTube and realistically in our day-to-day lives for those of you who know us personally. My last upload was about 3 months ago during the month of Ramadan, and if you go back and check that video, you'll see why I stopped uploading during Ramadan. I intended to continue recording shortly after Ramadan and Eid. However, some really major changes have taken place, and I wanted to go over those or just talk to you all about what's been going on in our lives since my last upload. And I didn't want to just jump right back on YouTube because it was pretty major. So without further ado, this video in particular is dedicated to my Sheikh, my murshid, Sheikh Sayyid Mubarak Ali Shah Jilani, Al-Hashimi, Al-Hasni, Wal-Husayni, Wal-Qadri. Allah be pleased with him forever and raise his station. So what happened is that shortly after Eid, or shortly after Ramadan, during second day of Eid, we received the news that our murshid Kamil went back home. He continued his journey from this life on to the next life and to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I didn't want to just upload a video of a painting after that, or just a random video here on YouTube, whether it was about homeschooling or anything else, before stopping for a moment, taking some time to reflect. He is a huge part of our lives, and it just wouldn't be right to just go on making videos without stopping to properly eulogize him or to just tell you a little bit about him. You know, I've made videos in the past about Omar ibn Said or Sulaiman Diallo, and you know, I've had video requests for other shuyukh and their history. And I just wanted to talk a bit about my sheikh because he means so much to me. I can't really put it all into words. We'd like to share some of that with you.
So when I think of my sheikh, first and foremost, he is my spiritual father.
Mm-hmm.
On July 10th, 2003, I consider that my spiritual birthday, my true birth, when I met my sheikh in person, physically, and he began that process to bring my Nuri self out of the shell.
You're speaking esoterically.
Esoterically, yes. I mean, obviously, physically, you know, I was in awe only because growing up, you know, my parents, my brothers, my elder siblings got to meet him, and they had their experience with him, and it was a magnificent and beautiful experience. And when they returned home, they shared that with us. My parents met him, and when they returned home, they shared it with us. Well, obviously, my parents met him first. But then they came home and they shared that with us. So we have these great stories and this picture in our heads, in our minds, of our sheikh, how kind he is, how loving and benevolent, his character, his magnanimity of character, and how he emulates. It is a mirror of Sayyidina Rasul Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And growing up, we heard so much about him, But then to actually physically meet him, I was in awe. Because here is this great pillar. I'm seeing him in his physical form, but I've already heard so much about him. And so it had me in awe, just right off the bat.
Can I?
Yes.
So to give you a little background, we live in the United States of America, if you are new here. We live in the United States of America, and our sheikh, he actually lives in Pakistan. So it's like when my husband is saying when he met him, he means like when he traveled abroad to meet him. Now, he's talking about from his first physical encounter or meeting of him, and the journey that he went on spiritually, right? And for many of us in the community that we are a part of, in my sheikh's community, for many of us, some of us met him when he came to the United States of America. He came to the U.S. before I was born, and then he would go around and visit to different states and establish communities and lands, and would buy, our parents, would buy property. And you've seen some of my videos where we live on the property and in the countryside, so that we can, I want to say, protect or raise our children in a more natural environment, instead of raising them amongst what do they call it, the concrete jungle. So instead of raising them in the city life, or even sometimes even that suburban life, to raise or to live in that lifestyle where you're on land and property, it's a lot healthier for some people, for the environment. So some of us, many of us I should say, moved into the country and started a life there, growing crops and raising animals and nurturing our children and homesteading and starting our families. If you are new here, you can check back on some of my videos and you'll see where we homeschool, where we garden, where we've had animals, how we go about the process and what we do for things like Eid and how we celebrate Ramadan and all of that, right? All of that was established once our sheikh came to the United States. Before that, our parents, if you check back on another video, I will leave the iCards, or the it's like a clickable link up above on the screen. But our parents, they started off in the city life, but once they met our sheikh, who instructed them to move into the country life, they started a new life there. And then from there, we were born, raised, and cultivated, and we created community and more of like a sense of community where we could raise our children in a safer environment than what they would be in, let's just say, in the dark side of the city.
The biggest reason, the biggest thing about that is our parents reverted to Islam decades ago. And once you revert to Islam, you begin a journey, and that journey is to purify yourself, to learn Islam, to learn the laws of Allah, and to learn the beloved sunnah of Sayyidina Rasul Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and then to make that ascension back to Allah in the best state possible.
And that is what our Sheikh tried to bring.
And that
is what he brought when he came. Sorry.
Exactly. So through the tireless journey that our parents undertook, there came a point in time where they were ready to meet, or they received that invitation to meet and become talibs and talibas, or students of our sheikh.
All right, so what ended up happening is, as time went by and the communities were established and growing, after a while our sheikh went back to Pakistan, and then the people from the Americans would start going over to Pakistan to learn about the culture there, because I'm telling you from experience, there is nothing like traveling and learning and seeing for yourself. It removes a form of racism. It removes a form of having a closed mind or being very small-minded. it removes so many veils, and it opens your mind to learning different cultures, different languages, and having that hands-on experience when you have to go through an airport, or when you have to face when you have to book a ticket for the first time, or catch your first flight, or catch a connecting flight, things like that. And when you're dealing with international flights, so it stimulates your mind in a way, and it helps you to grow up a lot faster. I don't know how to put it that way, but
it gives you perspective.
It gives you perspective, but the entire experience, it's like a life-changing journey. And then you get there to his zavia, or the location where the school where you are now getting ready to learn. And this learning experience changes you for the rest of your life. And when I say for the rest of your life, it can either be in a negative way or a positive way, depending on you. Because my sheikh, he stays consistent. No matter what happens, I bear witness. He stays consistent from beginning to end. Like, before I was born, my parents have recordings from before I was born of his lectures and his discourses. And up until the very last time I ever spoke with him, his message has always been the same. This is not your permanent place, not in this world. You are not here to enjoy this world. You are here to fulfill your oath to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and take back as many people as you can to remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would say, you are returning to the darkest continent on this earth. Talking about the United States, it's we as Americans,
right,
we have a lot going on with this culture.
Right, this culture.
And he would say, you are to bring people out of that darkness and into the light of al-Islam. And from day one, before I was born, we have recordings of him saying this up until our last conversation. Allah be pleased with him and raise his station.
Ameen.
So once you get to Pakistan, this is what my husband was picking up on, or where he started off. Once he met him, he was saying July 10th.
July 10th
was the first day he met him on that trip to Pakistan, to Lahore, Rawalpindi. Where was it?
So we met on the outskirts of Murray.
The mountains.
We started the ascent into the mountains, and then as we came around a bend, I looked out of the vehicle. It was a very, very steep cliff here, but beyond that, I could see there was a table and a car next to it, and I could see people sitting at the table. My heart started pounding with anxiety and excitement, and we proceeded down the mountain. It took some time. You had to drive very, very slow. When we got there, we got out of the vehicle and we approached the table. Shaji was sitting, our sheikh was sitting at the table, and he said, "Come, sit down." So we all sat down. Once we got through the particulars of the trip, he quickly turned to me and he asked, "What took you so long to get here?" And I was taken aback, just a little bit, because I didn't know, my first time physically meeting my sheikh, I had no idea what to say or, what that experience was going to be like. And so he was very welcoming, and he asked the question. He said, what took you so long to get here? And, in my mind, the only thing that could have taken me away from getting there or delayed that was I had to purify my niyyah. And that was the beginning of the journey. Here we are today. I have to say I wouldn't be here were it not for my sheikh.
What do you mean you wouldn't be here?
Well,
where you are mentally, spiritually, physically?
Mentally, physically, and spiritually. And the reason I say that is, like I said earlier, our parents began the journey. I was a very, very small child when they began that journey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember much of it. As I fast forward through time, and I remember probably being 7 years old, making hijrah and going across the country, learning to read Holy Quran. What I remember most is the shelter that our parents provided us by way of our Sheikh and the guidance and instruction and teaching that he provided, that carried over to when we moved from the cities to our rural communities, on through when I grew up and became an adult and started getting that inkling of desire to serve Allah. I wouldn't be able to do that were it not for those beginnings that our Sheikh provided for us, that shelter that he provided. I wouldn't be here, because without that guidance, it's kind of like this: without knowing how to drive, without having taken the lessons and practicing, you get behind the wheel, you veer off the road. Who knows what happens?
Right.
And the same applies here physically in life. Without that guidance and without that instruction, I would have veered off course. And even though, as a Muslim, at the very, very, very basics, and with the very, very basic Islam, we're all going to veer off the path somewhat, right? But you want to fall down on the path. You want to make your mistake on the path and get up and keep moving. And our Sheikh, he's here to guide us and show us how to do that in the best way possible. And without that, I wouldn't be here. It starts with, having that whatever small inkling of an understanding you've been given or that you've been able to hold on to. It begins with that, right? And you continually, work on improving on those lessons, improving on those things, so that you don't veer off path or veer off course.
I feel like my experience with him was both physically a learning experience and spiritually a learning experience, or a journey. And I'm still on that journey, but hence the name change. I don't know if you all have noticed, but the name of my channel is now My Life's Journey, as opposed to Simply Myla K. It used to be Simply Myla K, and now it is My Life's Journey. Because what I've come to realize is that all of this is a journey from Allah to Allah, right? So my experience with my Sheikh, or sometimes you'll hear me call him Sheikh, murshid, imam, it's just, these are just proper terms or terms of endearment, because I'll never call him on a first name basis. You never disrespect. It's looked at as a form of disrespect if you were to talk about your teacher, you all know, on a first name basis, or your elder, your beloved, anything like that. So you may hear me refer to him as Sheikh, Murshid, Imam, things like that, or so what I was going to say is my experience, I want to say, was just a bit different, perhaps from my husband's. Although we're dealing with the same Sheikh, he's just had two. I had
each relationship, the bond between Talib and Sheikh, or Taliba and Sheikh, is unique between those two.
Right. So
and he can have an innumerable amount of Talibs or Talibas, and his relationship with each one of them is unique.
Right. And so my earliest memory of meeting him was when he came to South Carolina. I don't remember what year that was, but when he came to South Carolina, and I remember his vehicle coming down the road, and we were lined up on the roads ready to greet him, all the men, ladies, and children. Obviously, I may have been 3 years old, I want to say, maybe 4. And I remember, he got out of the car, or when he exited the car, all the men rushed up to shake his hand. They were so happy to meet him. And he was just this very dynamic, like he had such this personality, the way he walked with such confidence, the way he patted children's head with such love, the way he conducted himself was so regal. He was such royalty. And then when he went inside, and sat down, and all of the children came. We sang songs to him, and he just smiled in the way that he showed all of us such love through his actions. There was no, you know how some people, they can come off a little scary to children. He wasn't scary at all. We all wanted to walk up to him, and like we, as little kids, I may have been 3 or 4 years old, but we all wanted to walk up to him and meet him. We all wanted to, you know, just like when
there's an immediate attraction.
Yeah, you're just drawn to
immediately
him, you
drawn
know,
to him.
and there's just so much love there, you know. So then, okay, let's fast forward. There were some other times where he visited to South Carolina, and he went and visited different states within the United States, obviously, and then I'll fast forward till Pakistan. Okay, so when I went over there, when I flew my first trip to Pakistan, meeting him there, it was just such a wonderful experience. He made me feel at home. You know, it was my first time being away from my parents. I was like 16 or 17 years old. I may have just turned 17. I think I just turned 17 years old. And like a few days later, went over. A few weeks later. I'm sorry. Anyway, it doesn't even matter. But I went over, and he really made me feel at home by, you know, he had us sit down. We were served the best food, the best drinks, the best everything. He laid it out for us. You know, he had it laid out for us. The family welcomed us. I remember the cake said "Welcome Home." They gave us a welcome home cake, and it was like they gave us 3 days to rest before we started going on adventures and learning about the country, the difference between the country, the culture, and Islam. And it was such a beautiful experience. And all the while, he would, you know, check on us and try to make sure that we were getting the best services while there and learning the best. And he would, with each of us who was there, he would try to find, you know, our unique qualities and bring out the best in our unique qualities. So if there was someone there who knew how to sew very well, he would buy them like materials for sewing, and he would have them sew. I remember one time he bought everyone a sewing machine, and we all started to sew, and he would look at our work and see what we did, and he would try to help improve or help that person improve on their strongest qualities. And even if it was like, what is it called, embroidery, cross-stitching, knitting, whatever it was, he would try to bring out the best in you. And then he would, you know, send that person back to the United States and say, go start a business, open up your sewing school, start your clothing line, do this, do that. He would try to bring out the best in you and then send you back with more than what you came with. If someone's specialty was to cook, he would, you know, put them in the kitchen, and they would teach all the young ladies there how to cook, follow this recipe, how to work with what you have, how to do this or that, you know. And all the while, his adab was impeccable. His mannerisms, his everything, like it was very hard to find flaw or fault in anything that he did. It was just everybody who was around him honestly felt like he loved them the most, you know, without him even having to say, oh, I love you, it was unnecessary. The way that he spoke to us in such a kind, soft-hearted, just, he would compliment us, you know, and it means a lot to me because growing up, not that, I don't want to say being teased had a very big or large impact on my life, but growing up in America, being a brown complexion with full lips, and I want to say with my features, the features that I have, we don't get praised in the United States for looking the way we do. More so nowadays than we did 20 years ago or 40 years ago. So the type of person that my sheikh is, the type of things he said to us was like, you know, there are no people like you people. Your faces are bright, they're shining, you know, you have so much potential. We don't hear those words in the United States of America when it comes to people who look like us.
It's more Western culture, right?
It may be Western culture, but I've seen racist people, not to say I've had so much experience with racists, but I have seen people from different countries looked down on African Americans or people of brown color because they looked at us as if we were the descendants of slaves. You don't know who my ancestors are. So, like, because of our features. Or they look at you like you're going to steal from their convenience store. Excuse me, this is my country. You
Even
know what I mean?
Africans.
Yeah, like,
they look at
there
us
are
like
racist people in this country. So when you go and for the first time really experience someone who appreciates your features and appreciates your complexion, it does something to you. It gives you a sense of confidence. And that's what he would do. He'd bring out the best in you and also give you confidence. And not only did he teach us about sewing, cooking, making tea, he would talk to us about, Islamic studies, calligraphy, Holy Quran, Arabic, history, Islamic history. He would tell us stories of, Qasasul Anbiya. He would tell us the stories of the prophets. He would tell us stories of the Sahaba. He would give us the stories, the commentary, the background on Holy Quran, So we learned a lot. We took down notes. If you were left-handed, he would try to have you practice writing with your right hand, just to strengthen the muscles in your right hand, because it's sunnah to do so many things with your right hand. And he would just try to bring out the best of your character. And even if you had faults or flaws, he would overlook them and try to bring out the best in you, right? And it's like he would practice what he preached. If he said, if someone does something to you, causes you some heartache, some harm, what did he say?
If people do things to you, forgive them, forget it. Forget
about it. Move on. Life, first of all, is too short. It's just too short to be dwelling on the hurt, the pain, the past. It's not easy to do, but with practice, discipline, things like that, you can accomplish doing that. And I don't want to say he raised the bar high, but he would let us know, like,
he showed us the standard.
Yeah, Allah is your friend.
Right. The standard has always been there. The bar is set at the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for me, what really sealed it for me is that everything you read about in the books of hadith, our beloved Sheikh, he lived it and exemplified those noble ways. The way the Holy Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you talked about this briefly, the way he would see any person, no matter how light or dark their heart, if he found that one speck, he would shine that one speck until it became 5 specks, until it became larger and larger and larger, and until he purified that person's heart. And he would do it for every single person he encountered. And he did it without, it was indiscriminate. He didn't say, well, I'm not going to, you talk to me a certain way, so I'm not going to show you any love, or shine up your character.
Wait, I've heard this about you, so I'm just going to go with what I heard, despite what I know about
it. It was always...
I'm sorry.
He gave his level best to improve the character and the quality of life for everyone he encountered.
Right.
That's the way of Ahlul Bayt. That's the way of the Holy Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and our beloved Sheikh. He embodied that conduct. He embodied that way.
And he took special care to look after us before he looked after himself. I bear witness. He would do things for us before he would ever selfishly do it for himself. He would put his own health aside. He would put his own wants, his needs, his own rest, his sleep. He would not sleep until he knew that certain things were put into place for us. He would not eat until he knew that we ate. He would not be comfortable, but he'd be making sure that we were comfortable. There are so many stories of how he would forsake his own comfort, his own health, his own everything before making sure or seeing to it that we were comfortable. Sometimes he would stay up all night with the time zones. Sometimes it's nightfall over there while it's daylight over here, and he'd be up all night to make sure that whatever it is that we may need, whatever's going on, let's just say if it was Eid, for example, he wanted to know, how is their Eid going? What's happening? Are they celebrating in the manner in which the children will learn how to appreciate Eid? How's their Ramadan going? Are they up at this hour? Are they making sure that they get enough rest so that they can be up at this hour? Are they making sure to be vigilant during the last 10 nights looking for Laylatul Qadr? Or, he would stay up and he would try to find out how we're doing, what we're doing. He constantly would, look for and ask for updates, reports, what's happening, so what's going on there, how's it going? And he always wanted the best for us, and putting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. He would always put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, no matter what it is. Whenever you would talk to him on the telephone, you pick up the phone, Assalamu alaikum Abu Ji, sometimes we call him Abu Ji, Assalamu alaikum Ya Sheikh. He would say, Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So what is happening? That would be like his go-to line. Every time I've spoken to him on the phone, he'd say, so what's happening? And you want to give him a full report, like a progress report, like, okay, so today we got this, last week we did that, we planted this amount of trees, we have this and that. And he'd always be so glad to hear from you. He'd always be so happy to hear from you and to learn of the progress. Whatever progress you've made, he's like, okay, so keep up the good work and do this and that. And he'd bring out the best. He'd make suggestions, He'd make suggestions for you to do it in a better way than you could even imagine for yourself. For you to benefit. And it's all for your benefit. I'm sorry.
As I listen, I'm formulating in my mind, or just remembering, Shadi used to always say, I came with nothing but Allah. And everything I've heard, as I'm listening to you, that statement embodies everything that you said. His life's mission was to teach us to be better humanitarians, to teach us how to prepare ourselves to meet Allah.
In the best possible condition.
In the best possible condition. Those ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah where Allah says, it's not enough that you turn your face to the east or to the west in prayer, but it's also those other things. It's the humanitarian aspect of it. Helping orphans, helping the needy, feeding the needy, helping in a time of crisis, helping adjudicate the affairs of those who are misfortunate and misguided, bringing Islam to all the corners of the world, and at the very, very, very foundational level, being kind and loving to your family. These are some of the basic principles that are in Holy Quran that the Holy Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us how to do. And then we were blessed by Allah to have our beloved Sheikh who embodied that conduct and showed us how to do it. That was his mission.
I remember one of my trips over there, maybe my second trip, while I was there, he was watching the morning news and no, it was evening news, I think, over there at the time. But it was still happening in the morning in the United States on September 11th, on 9/11, when the Twin Towers were attacked. And although we knew, even while watching it, we knew they were going to blame the Muslims. This is before they had their report out to say who was behind it. We knew they would blame Muslims and target Islam. Yet, when I returned back to the United States, you know what he had, what my Sheikh had the men from our community do? He had the men gather up and go to Ground Zero and help serve the people who, were under, okay, I'm sorry. He had the people from this community went to Ground Zero after September 11th, despite the fact that they were blaming Muslims for this. He had them go and help the people in need.
Yeah.
He had them go and render aid, because that is who he is. It does not matter what people say. Let them throw trash, let them throw mud. They can try to make a mockery of you. You never forget, you are here to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by serving His creation, you are in fact serving Him. If you see someone is in need, you see someone needs this help, and it doesn't matter what people think of you. You never stop being a humanitarian to those in need.
And you have to give your level best effort. That was one of the biggest examples that he showed me. That and go on.
Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at Taif, when he went there to call the chieftain at Taif, he went there to call them to al-Islam. Instead, they turned their children on him and had their children throwing rocks at him until they threw rocks at him until he was bleeding from his head into his sandals. And when Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I can flip this town upside down with just the tip of my wing, he said no, and he made dua for them and said that perhaps, even if they don't become Muslim, that perhaps their children will become Muslim. And my Sheikh, being a descendant of the Holy Last Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is a descendant of Ahlul Bayt, the blessed family and the people of the noble lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He embodies those characters as well, those characteristics as well. And he did the same thing when he went to Taif as well, because if we got started on his story, his journey, we might have to make a part two. We might have to make a part 2 to this. But he went to Taif as well, and he followed in the same footsteps, and he helped this man there. He helped the hospital there. They were the man who was sick. There was a man who was brain dead, and when he helped there in Taif, and they reported the news report, they
left him off.
Conveniently left his report of how this man who was brain dead came back to life. They conveniently
they left out the part about Holy Quranic science.
Yes, they didn't fully report that story properly at all, and he was still kind enough, to help them. And the same with 9/11, when although Muslims were blamed and Muslims were beaten and Muslims were tortured for that, he didn't give up, and he still encouraged. He said, "You help those people who are in need." Right?
Right.
So what were you saying? I'm sorry, I felt like I was cutting you off at some point.
No, I was just recounting how, he always strived his level best. If you're going to undertake an effort, whether it's washing your vehicle or, learning a trade, no matter what it is, playing a sport, you always give your level best effort. And the thing about it is,
he started so much.
What Muslims, and just people in general, what you have to remember is that one of the things that made the Holy Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam the best of creation was he strived his level best in everything. There wasn't one effort that he undertook in which he didn't strive his level best.
And I wanted to say too that my murshid, my sheikh, he started so many endeavors, so many programs right here in the United States. He started off so many positive programs, so many youth programs, so many, like the hiking club. It's called the Muslim Scouts. Club. What is it?
There's Islamberg Hiking
Club.
Club.
No, I'm talking about the Muslim Scouts of America.
MSA, Muslim Scouts.
The Muslim Scouts of America, the hiking club, the American Medical Relief Team. That's who he sent down to the Ground Zero 9/11. There was an earthquake in Southeast Asia. He had medical teams go over there. He established so many different foundations, and just to name a few: the United Muslim Christian Forum, the Dawah programs, the summer programs, the annual. Due to COVID, we've had to cancel a few of them, but alhamdulillah, because of Zoom and other means of coming together and collaborating, right? But the summer programs, the Banat Noor International summer programs, where, how many countries are involved now with Banat Noor International, from West Africa through London to the United States, all the way up through Anchorage, Alaska. We have so many different people who come together for that. The Muslim Scouts of America, their youth programs. And the thing is, he made sure that he left no stone unturned. For example, you have people who, with males, you have that aggression that needs to get out. And we used to have things like people would be in, like, not, I'm trying to find the right words for it,
like
but
Kabaddi tournaments.
Yes, but he brought about Kabaddi. He introduced
that
the
to us.
Kabaddi to keep us from going to things like fight clubs, for example. But he would introduce
boxing's
solutions.
haram as an example.
Well, he would
but,
introduce solutions
you have
to
Kabaddi.
Right. He would introduce solutions to what could be a problem before it was even made a problem. He would introduce solutions, and how to I want to say get out that aggression.
Allow boys to be boys.
Yeah.
In a wholesome way.
I'm saying aggression, but yes, he would allow boys to be boys in a wholesome way. And the same with ladies. Instead of us losing our femininity, our feminine wiles and ways, and the way that females should be, he would always lay emphasis. And when I say the way that females should be, there's a natural role for females and there's a natural role for males. There are things that we can do that they cannot, and there are things that they can do that we cannot. And he would always lay emphasis on that. There are certain ways that we walk and carry ourselves with grace. There are certain ways that we wear our clothing. Even with the men, he would teach them there are certain ways to wear your clothing. Don't just go mixed match. Don't have ripped up, tattered clothing. Rasulullah would sew up his own. He would hem his own clothing. He would help out around the house. He would help his family. He would be there with them. He would play with his children, his grandchildren, and also have the heaviest weight of the entire world on his shoulders. And he would bear that. He wouldn't come home and be angry and get physical. He wouldn't do those types of things. And he was also
very loving.
Yes, and he would swim. He was a sportsman, and he would also, our sheikh, I'm now talking about our sheikh, he would encourage hunting and fishing and just outdoor living, like
mountain climbing.
Yes, but open fire camping, cooking over an open fire, things like that. We would go to the mountains with him, and we would cook over the open fire, and he would tell us or instruct us to bring that same lifestyle back home to your own families and spread it to our neighbors. And if we didn't know how to do something, ask a neighbor. He would say, like, watch how your neighbors live and conduct yourselves accordingly and learn from your neighbors.
Be civic.
And
learn about the government, the governmental side of life. Learn about the politics of your locality.
Study law.
Study law. Engage in the local community and integrate,
Mm-hmm. And he would just, like I was trying to say in the beginning, he'd really bring out the best. He would bring out the best in us, and he would hope that we would return back to the U.S. and bring out the best in others. And one of the biggest reasons I even started this channel is because I couldn't figure out how to reach enough people with the idea or the message to say, well, I did start it off with the homeschooling videos, but just to say you can do it wherever you are. My channel is more so for moms and ladies, but mom, you can do this. It's very possible, to juggle certain things. You might not get every single thing done, but sometimes when you see that there are other people out here with this similar struggle, or we are out here trying to share ideas for how to get through life and through this journey that we call life, you may feel encouraged or inspired, and that's what this channel is here for. And I couldn't figure out how to share with the world, unless I flew all around the world, but still you reach more people through YouTube than you would even journeying to different countries. And even in that, to me, he was an inspiration for me to say, you know what, I'm going to start making videos and sharing with other mothers who can relate to my way of life, Islamic way of life, being a mother, a wife, a teacher to your children, and trying to run a home, or just trying to day-to-day life, just trying to get through your day-to-day life. So even in that, he was a huge, he, you know, still inspired me to even make this channel, speaking Arabic, keeping up with Arabic, trying to explore other languages, introducing my own children to Holy Quran and their teacher, and just all the aspects under the umbrella of Islam, living in this world and trying not to be of this world. He, subhanAllah, was my biggest, he was my biggest supporter, and I want to say the biggest influence, strongest influence maybe, you know, because had I not met him personally, I don't think I'd be here either. And what I mean by that is I don't think I'd have the confidence I have today. I don't think I'd be as willing to do some of the things that we do. That we're not going to name every single thing that we do, but
I think that's huge. The confidence. He gave me the confidence to stand up and live life as Allah has decreed for it to be lived. You're going to go through, as you walk the path, you're going to go through so many tests and trials. There's so many bumps in the road. And he would always say, have faith, put your trust in Allah, and Allah will provide a way out for you. He will make you strong. He will provide the strength that you need to get through the test and trial, and after the test and trial, he'll provide the ease. He'll provide the relief. That confidence, it, you know, it's immeasurable how large of an impact, how big of an impact he's had on not just my life or your life, but the lives of so many others where that's concerned. And a very, very, very important thing.
Yeah, and you know, I have to say, some of you leave very kind comments, very, very kind comments. Allah bless you for that, you know. But I do want to say, whatever you see, like as far as these videos, I try, especially when we hit record, I really try to, I want to say, be that person that he expects of me. I don't know if I'm wording that properly, but he does hold us to a certain expectation.
Person he expects of you and raised you to be.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like he has certain expectations without having to say it. But it's like in life, when you have given a person so much, you don't expect them to just throw it away. You expect them to apply it where it matters most. And we try, you know, especially when we hit record, because we are now putting our faces out there on the internet and the whole world sees it. And imagine if we were to post something that was just incredibly inappropriate, then people immediately would point their finger at him and say, you know, that's what he has them doing. That's the kind of people you raise. That's the kind, you know. But when you see anything good, for those of you who do not know us, just know that we have had the benefit or blessings of being around the honor, thank you, of being around a sheikh, a murshid,
a perfect guide,
a guide who has helped us get to where we are today. In fact, we didn't even know each other. What year of 17 years ago? 17 years. Didn't even know each other until after meeting our sheikh. And then, as I want to say, as you say, a lot of people say this is cultural. Sometimes it may be looked as cultural. Other times people look at it as Islamic. However it goes, whatever is said and done, because of our sheikh, we came to know each other. We crossed paths because of listening to him, because of his instructions. How do you
follow his discipline?
His instructions. I'm lost for words, because
there aren't a lot of words that you can.
What I'd like to say is
apply. You know.
No, even with us, we were match made. There was no. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. We didn't. Did we even know each other existed? But because from the root, our sheikh formulating a community that followed certain structure, discipline, removed our families from city life and started anew in the country, And, they left everything behind, and it was a struggle because they left everything behind. But now here we are today. We were both raised totally two different states, but in
same
communities in that rural, urban life. I'm saying rural and urban, Lord. In that urban...
rural, suburban life.
It was like a rural life,
Yeah.
And we had similar upbringings. And because of that, alhamdulillah, even all those years later, we were able to come together, and now our family is benefiting from
his teachings,
from the seeds that he planted. They're now benefiting from the produce, what has come to be.
They are the fruits of his labor, just like we are the fruits of his labor.
They are the fruits of his labor, but it's like he planted the seed years ago, and today our children are being raised in a safe environment. You obviously you still have to watch your children and raise them, but they are now they don't have to run from a hail of bullets because somebody had a drive-by shooting in a bad neighborhood.
That's right.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Because of his vision for us, for our future, our children are now being raised in a wholesome environment.
They are part of his blessed legacy.
Yes, and we now have, we're able to teach them Holy Quran. If they didn't have a teacher, just because it's, after a while it's a lot, it could be like burdensome on a child and on the parent to have to teach them every single thing. So we've hired a teacher for Holy Quran. But if we didn't have the means, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not grant us the means for that, we could teach our children Holy Quran ourselves. That is one of the biggest blessings that I can even think of at this moment, and benefits from having the Sheikh and the murshid whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has graced us with in this life, and inshallah in the life hereafter. And I just wanted to talk about that because I didn't want to just go on and make videos as if nothing happened. We physically lost one of the biggest inspirations, one of the people who I feel loved me the most in this world. We lost his physical body in this world.
Our Sheikh's transition from the physical world to Allah, his return to Allah, is the end of an era and the beginning of a new era. It's a time where, everyone, all of his followers, all of his talibs and talibas have to dig deep and return to his teachings, refine, renew, reinvigorate that spirit.
I was talking to one of my sisters, and she asked, "What are we gonna do? Like, what happens next? What's going to happen now that our Sheikh has returned to Allah? What do we do next?" And I said, "What do you mean? He's given us the keys to success already. He's given us. He has already laid out the blueprint to get through this life and make it back home to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hopefully in the best of conditions." And that's what you do. You continue living the life as instructed, as taught, as given by your sheikh, by your murshid. Okay, so we tried to keep this video at a certain length. I'm pretty sure we went over that time. I really needed about 3 months to keep moving forward, and that time to reflect. And I wanted to share with you all some of just some of our history with our Sheikh. I'll probably make another video. I'm not sure. I don't want to make any promises, but there is so many facets to this diamond that we have as a murshid, and it would take a very long time to make videos or audios or anything on his history. And this is just a nutshell, but I wanted to talk about him because, like I said, I just didn't want to go on making videos. So without repeating myself over and over, we'll just close out here or end the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you are the MVP. I appreciate it. And I thank my husband for joining me again because, y'all already know his time is very, very precious, and I'm very appreciative. I appreciate when he comes and sits here because sometimes, I know you all enjoy it too.
It's a pleasure.
You all enjoy it too.
It's a pleasure.
So hit that thumbs up button just because it's something nice to do for content creators. And we'll see you in the next video, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That is